Hello and welcome back to my channel Get Coded, and today is our class 12 on C programming. So in today's class we are going to start with functions. Okay, so in functions we are going to call a function, return a function, then we are going to pass values, then there will be a parameterized function and recursive function. Okay, so first we are going to start with calling a function. Okay, so let's just write the basic skeleton of our program. So this is our skeleton of a program. If you remember, the main is the main function of every program. So whenever this function is there, the statements get executed. Okay, without the main function, no statement will get executed. So let's just make our own function. Okay, so let's say void. So this function won't be returning anything. So void, let's give it a name. We will be doing a sum. So let's say sum. And here we are going to initialize some values like let x is equals to 10 and y is equals to, let's say, 50. Okay, so these two would be the variables and the sum would be calculated in a third variable called as z. So our z will do the addition x plus y, and this function is going to print 2. So it is going to print sum equals to and then percentage d, that means the value should be printed in place of percentage d, that is z. So this should be printed on the screen. So the answer should be 60. Since you know everything inside the main function gets executed, we want this function to be called here. So we are going to call a function. Okay, so here comes the function name with the brackets. So I have called the sum function. So now when I run the program, I get the answer 60. Okay, so this is about calling a function. Now we will start with returning the function. Now I want the value to be returned. Okay, so let's write the basic structure. So now we want our function to return something. So let's say, since it is going to return, we cannot write void. Our previous function was not returning anything, that's why we had written void sum. Since this function would be returning something, we would be writing int sum. So here are our three variables, which does addition, z does addition, and now I want the z value to be returned. Okay, so here this function will return z value, and now I want to call this function here. We cannot directly call, so we need to initialize the sum variable to something else, as this would be receiving the value of the sum function. So int add, and then add is equals to the sum function. And now the value, the z value, that is 60, is now stored in add, and here we want to print the add. So printf and add. So we will just run it. You get the answer as 60. So this was about returning a function. Okay, now we come to passing the values to the function. Okay, to pass some values, we need to first call the function. Let's say sum is called here. The x and y which was initialized here won't be initialized now. since I would be writing my values in the sum, so let's say I have entered 10 and 50 as my values, this sum would be receiving them. So this part would be inside this sum. So int x first would be in our x and the second value would be in the y. So int y, and then our z does the addition, so int z. Okay, now this function also is going to return you, otherwise you can just write a simple print statement here itself. So the sum is equals to %d and z will come here. So this simple. So let's now run our program. You can see sum is equals to 60. Okay, so second, we have done 3 programs. Let's now move to another one, that is a parameterized function, which is similar to passing the values to a function. Okay, so in this we just have to declare a variable, let's say total, and then we will assign total, the sum function, to the total variable, and we are going to pass these values, let's say 10 and 50, and then we would be displaying it. So since it's a parameterized, let's say return z. Okay, and here we want to print the z. We don't want to print z, we want to print the total variable. Okay, so this is basically a combination of the passing values and the returning values. So you can see the sum is equals to 60. So now let's move to the last part of today's class, that is recursive function. So recursive function means calling a function again and again. To call a function again and again, let's consider one program called as a factorial. If you remember, in factorial we do if you want a factorial of 5, so you do 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So like that you are going to decrease by one number, right? So let's just write a basic structure. So this is our basic structure. Let's declare a function. Let's create a function called as int factorial, and in this factorial we would be receiving the number which would be of integer type. So let's say int n would be the number. I've just declared it here. So inside this factorial function I want something to happen, like say if my, so this is going to be 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So if it is 1, so like if the user has written 1, so 1's factorial is 1. So if my n, the number, if it is equals to 1, I want the user to get the output as 1 itself. Okay, so I will just simply write return 1. Else, if it is not 1, so if my number is 5 or any other number, so I want the user to get some value, let's say return. So I want n, that is my number, into, I want this factorial to be called again, so factorial n minus 1. So first time it is 5, so 5 not equals to, it will return 5 into factorial of n minus 1. So n minus 1 would be 4. So 4 will come here, then it will again come here, then 5 into 4 into 3. So like that it is going to return me the value. So now in the main function I will initialize the number as 5 and a variable which will hold the value. So this variable is going to call the factorial function and pass the num variable. So the num variable is holding 5. So the 5 would be passed here in this factorial function. Okay, and then I would be printing the factorial, which would be %d. It would have the value of fact. Okay, that is the return function. If it has returned 1, so here will come 1 and the fact variable will hold 1. If it is not 1 and it is the factorial of 5, that is 120, so it will hold 120. Okay, so we are going to just display the fact and then we are going to return the factorial function. So let's initialize x equals to this, and you can see because of the spelling mistake it did not give the output, but now it has given the output as 120 and we have got our answer. So this is how you need to find your errors. So if you like it, do like, share and subscribe to my channel and share with anyone you feel like. So thanks a lot for watching.